यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन भज जनरञ्जना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnation. Text number 33. Yatra ime sad asad rupe yatre me sadasad rupe We'll wait for the words to be shown. Yes. Yatre me sadasad rupe pratisiddhe swa samvida pratisiddhe swa samvida pratisiddhe swa samvida avidyaya atmani krite avidyayatmani krite avidyayatmani krite iti tad brahma darshanam iti tad brahma darshanam iti tad brahma darshanam yatre me sadasadrupe pratisiddhe swasamvida avidyayatmani krite iti tad brahma darshanam yatre me sadasadrupe pratisiddhe swasamvida avidyayatmani krite iti tad brahma darshanam. Mataji, can you show the words, please? Words. Yatra, whenever, ime, in all these, sat asat, gross and subtle, rupe, in the forms of pratisiddhe, on being nullified, swasamvida, by self-realization, avidyaya, by ignorance, atmani, in the self, krite, having been imposed, iti, thus, tat, that is, brahma darshanam, the process of seeing the absolute, Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord. Kindly repeat. Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The difference between self-realization and material illusion is to know that the temporary or illusory impositions of material energy in the shape of gross and subtle bodies are superficial coverings of the self. The coverings take place due to ignorance. Such coverings are never effective in the person of the personality of Godhead. Knowing this convincingly is called liberation or seeing the absolute. This means that perfect self-realization is made possible by adoption of godly or spiritual life. Self-realization means becoming indifferent to the needs of the gross and subtle bodies and becoming serious about the activities of the self. The impetus for activities is generated from the self, but such activities become illusory due to ignorance of the real position of the self. By ignorance, self-interest is calculated in terms of the gross and subtle bodies, and therefore a whole set of activities is spoiled life after life. When, however, one meets the self by proper culture, the activities of the self begin. Therefore, a man who is engaged in the activities of the self is called Jivan Mukta, or a liberated person, even in the conditional existence. This perfect stage of self-realization is attained not by artificial means, but under the lotus feet of the Lord, who is always transcendental. In the Bhagavad-gita, the Lord says that He is present in everyone's heart, and from Him only all knowledge, remembrance, or forgetfulness take place. When the living being desires to be an enjoyer of material energy, illusory phenomena, the Lord covers the living being in the mystery of forgetfulness, and thus the living being misinterprets the gross body and subtle mind to be his own self. And by culture of transcendental knowledge, when the living being prays to the Lord for deliverance from the clutches of forgetfulness, the Lord, by His causeless mercy, removes the living being's illusory curtain, and thus he realizes his own self. He then engages himself in the service of the Lord in his eternal constitutional position, becoming liberated from the conditioned life. All this is executed by the Lord either through His external potency or directly by the internal potency. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namavo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langhayate girim, yat kripatamaham vande, Sri Gurum Dina Karanam. 5,000 years ago, there was in one kingdom, those were the times when kings were ruling over different kingdoms all over the world. So there was a marriage happening in a royal family. So all of you have to guess who this is. So in this marriage, there was the groom who was a prince, and the bride was also a princess. So the wedding happened very nicely, in a very grand way. Naturally, it's a royal wedding. So in a very big way, many people had come, many kings had come to attend, and with lot of grandeur, opulence, the wedding was conducted. After the wedding, in those times, the system used to be that when the girl is married off and she is going to the new husband's place, because the girl will feel separation from the parents, she is giving up her home and going. You see, Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki. She is going to a new home, she is giving up all her old relatives, her parents, everybody, and going to the new home. So naturally, she will feel very sorry, she will feel very sad. So to reduce her feeling of separation, normally some relative will go with the girl and drop her till the husband's place and then come back. So for this bride, her brother went along with with her to drop her to the husband's place. And because he loved her, he loved his sister too much. So he said, I will drive the chariot of my sister till the house of her husband. So he took the reins of the horse in his hand, and on the chariot, his sister and his brother-in-law, they were seated, and he started slowly driving towards the brother-in-law's house. And the king also, the father, he had given a lot of gifts to the girl out of love and affection. So many armies, soldiers, so much gold, so many things, paraphernalia, servants, all of them, he had sent to accompany them. So as they were going along, they heard suddenly a disembodied voice, a voice from the sky. And the voice from the sky was addressing the brother who was driving the chariot. And the voice said, you fool, the 8th child of your sister is going to kill you. So now all of you know who it is. I don't have to tell who it is. So this brother was none other than Kamsa. And the sister was Devaki and her husband was Vasudeva. So when Kamsa heard this, he immediately wanted to kill Devaki. But Vasudeva managed to pacify him and cool him off and told him, why are you worried? Your sister is not going to kill you. 8th child. First of all, whether children will be there or not, we don't know. That also 8th child. So where all these things, somewhere in the future something has to happen. So don't worry. Whatever children are born, I'll hand over them to you. So you don't have to worry. So then Kamsa also, he did not kill Devaki. And so like this, one child after another, Kamsa got hold of them and he started killing all of them. And like this it went on. But the 7th child got transferred to Rohini's womb, and the 8th child, after it was born, which was Krishna himself who appeared, Vasudeva, surreptitiously, he shifted Krishna from the dungeon of Kamsa, where Kamsa had imprisoned both Vasudeva and Devaki. So Vasudeva transferred surreptitiously Krishna from that dungeon to the house of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And so like this, Kamsa could not know where that eighth child went. He was under the impression that the child who had been born to Yashodamai was switched with Krishna, which was a girl. And he was thinking that the eighth child was a girl. But that child actually happened to be Durga, or variously known as Ambika, Sharada, Kanyaka, etc. So she had informed Kamsa that the child who is going to kill him was already somewhere else. So Kamsa thought some miscalculation from the Devatas, they gave wrong information. So they told me eighth child of Devaki is going to kill me, but not the eighth child, but it's some other child born somewhere else. So he sent various asuras to find out in all the places, all the villages, all the towns, cities, everywhere, all children who were born within 10 days of that incident of the birth of Krishna, to go and kill all the children who are born within that 10 days. So different asuras went. Putana, Arishtasura, Aghasura, Bakasura, so many asuras went. But all of them were killed by Krishna. So eventually, upon Narada Muni's revelation, Kamsa came to know actually Krishna, who is living as a son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai, is actually the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, and he is the person who is going to kill him. So then Kamsa thought, okay, now this Krishna is not an ordinary child. I thought he is an ordinary child, but he is not an ordinary child. He has killed big asuras. Aghasura, Bakasura, Putana, all big asuras he has killed. So I should try to kill him very diplomatically. Direct confrontation is not good. So what he thought, Kamsa thought of a devious plan. Kamsa called all his close associates who are all big, strong wrestlers. Chandura, Mushtika, and all such people. Toshala. He called all of them and told them like this, there is one boy, Krishna. He has killed all these Asura friends of mine, and he is destined to kill me. So I don't want to directly confront him, but I want to in some way trap him and then kill him. Because now if I go and attack Vrindavan where Krishna is currently, he may run away. He may escape, just like I had imprisoned Vasudeva and Devaki to kill their eighth child, and Vasudeva, knowing that I am going to kill him, he silently, without anybody knowing, he took away Krishna somewhere where I could not know. So suppose in the same way I try to attack Vrindavan, and if Krishna runs away somewhere, I will not be able to know where he has gone. So we have to trap him very nicely. So what we will do, I will organize a wrestling match. And in that wrestling match, we will invite Krishna also along with all the residents of Raja to witness the wrestling match. And in that match, you people all catch him and kill him. So they all said, don't worry, small boy, no, we'll take care, don't worry, and all those assurances they gave. And then Kamsa thought that, okay, all these people gave assurance and went away. But what is the guarantee that they will be able to do it? So many asuras I sent, all of them killed. So some backup plan also should be there. So what he said, he called for one big, strong elephant called Kuvalayapida. And this Kuvalayapida was a very strong elephant. He had the strength of 10,000 elephants. He could fight with 10,000 elephants simultaneously. He was so powerful. So he called the mahout of that elephant. And he told him like this, I'm going to organize a wrestling match and I will invite all the Vrajavasis. Krishna will also come. When he comes, you keep Kuvalayapida at the entrance and you give him some intoxicant so that he is really in a mad position. And when Krishna enters the gate, Kuvalayapida should be standing there. As soon as he enters, trample him. Finish. By chance, if he escapes that elephant, Chandura, Mushtika, other people are also there. So plan A, plan B. Kamsa was now satisfied. So he thought, now Krishna I can trap. So now how to bring them all this one? Now if Kamsa personally goes and invites them, they will all think why king is coming. They will suspect. something is not okay. Yes, please. Yeah, that audio here to adjust. Change the mic. So, so then what happened? Then Krishna comes and thought, okay, how can I manage to get the Brajavasis without raising their feet? So what he did, Kamsa, he called Akrura, who was known to be very favorable to all the to the Vrajavasis and all that. So he thought, if I send Akrura, they will not suspect. So he called Akrura and he told him that you have to somehow convince the Vrajavasis, and you have to call Krishna and you have to bring him here. So Akrura, he was a great devotee of Krishna, so he went to Vrindavan, very happy to have darshan of Krishna, to be able to take the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna. So Akrura went to Vrindavan, and then he invited all the Vrajavasis, seeing that Kamsa has organized this big wrestling match. All of you he has invited. You can bring all your taxes also and you can submit. But then Akrura also told Krishna that what all Kamsa has planned. So that also he told him. So Krishna and Balaram laughed. What this Kamsa is thinking, all his arrangements. So we'll see what he will do. So very happily they went along. And all the Vrajavasis headed by Nanda Maharaj, they also went to Mathura. So in Mathura, when they came, Krishna and Balaram, they entered the city. The city of Mathura was very, very opulent. There were beautiful parks, gardens, lakes, and there were a lot of gates, entrance gates, crossroads, everywhere a lot of gold and a lot of decorations. And especially because Kamsa had organized this wrestling match, there was a lot of decorations all over the city. So it was a very festive mood. So Krishna and Balaram went around and they had a few pastimes there. And then next day, morning, and that day when Kamsa had also organized sacrifice to worship a bow, a dhanush, which was given to him by Lord Shiva. So Krishna went there and he picked up that bow and broke it into 2 pieces. So that itself sent a shiver down Kamsa's spine. That was such a huge bow that it took hundreds of men to lift it, and Krishna lifted it and broke it so easily like a toy. So all this Kamsa could understand that Krishna is not an ordinary person. And then next day Krishna and Balaram came to the arena, the wrestling arena. So as they were entering, Kuvalayapida came forward. And Krishna very easily killed Kuvalayapida. And then taking the tusk of the Kuvalayapida whom he had killed on his shoulder, Krishna and Balaram entered the wrestling arena. And when they entered the wrestling arena, Chanura, Mushtika, all these people, they approached Krishna and they told him, "Oh, Krishna, you have come. We have heard a lot about you. That you do a lot of wrestling in the forests of Vrindavan. And so we want to wrestle with you. Come, let us have a match." So Krishna told him, "Wrestling, we are. Who told you? We are simply playing. We all, cowherd boys, we simply, play around in the forest, and at that time we wrestle. That's all not like a real wrestling. Simply playing, we do so many things. You people are all professional wrestlers. Look at your bodies, so powerfully built, and you are very skilled in wrestling and all that. We are all not like that. So it's not appropriate that we fight with you. Fight with somebody of your match. We are not your match." So Chanura said, No, Krishna, we know your power. We know you killed Bakasura, Aghasura, all these asuras. So we know your strength. So come, let us fight. So Krishna said, "Okay, no problem." And then Krishna and Balaram fought with the asuras and all Chanura, Mushtika, all these wrestlers, and they killed all of them. And finally, they killed Kamsa also. So this is how everything went. We all know this story. Now, in this whole incident that happened in this whole pastime of Krishna, what is interesting is that when Krishna and Balaram entered the wrestling match, entered the arena,
what was the reaction of the people, which is described very vividly in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So when Krishna entered the arena, he was a beautiful boy, dressed like a cowherd, with a peacock feather on his head, bluish black complexion, lotus-like eyes, and such a stunningly beautiful lotus face, and his whole body so beautiful. His lotus toenails appeared like flower buds. So every anga, every part of his body was so beautiful and attractive. So when all the women of Mathura, they looked at Krishna, they saw such a beautiful boy he is. So they got attracted to him, to Krishna. All the Vrajavasis, when they looked at Krishna, they were all sitting in the audience. They saw Krishna and oh, Krishna, our Krishna, our Krishna, he is also a cowherd boy, he is one of our relatives. That's how they saw him. Then there were many evil kings who were friends of Kamsa. When they saw Krishna, they saw he has got the power to control all the kings. He's a really powerful person. There were some rishis and sages also. When they saw Krishna, this is Paramatma. This is the super soul. So like this, everybody who saw Krishna in a different way. Now what about all the wrestlers? Chanura, Mushtika, they also saw Krishna. They were standing in the middle of the arena, and you can visualize how there is this stadium. In the middle of the stadium, there is this wrestling, that square or that arena, and from one entrance, from one end, Krishna is entering. So from afar, from the distance, the wrestlers of Kamsa, they saw Krishna entering. Duratastam avalokya madhavam. That Madhava, Krishna, durataha, from a distance, they saw, oh, Krishna is entering. Komalango api. And that Krishna, his whole body was so tender, so delicate. Komala angaha. Because he was a Nava Yavana, just 10.5 years old. Although he was 10.5 years old, he was entering into fresh youth. So, you know how, when a person becomes a youth, when he goes from teenage into youth, when he is about 16 years of age, his whole body will be very soft, tender, delicate. And Krishna to super soft, super tender. Komalango api Rangamandale. And in that Rangamandala, in that wrestling arena, everybody saw Krishna entering like this. That Madhava, and these Asuras are seeing Madhava is entering, and he has a Komala Anga. His body is very delicate and tender. And how are these Asuras? This description is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. And how are these Asuras? Parvatodbhata bhujantaropi. Their bhuja antara. Bhuja antara means the space between their two shoulders. That means their chests. Their chests were all like Parvata Udbhata, like rising mountains. You know how when people are bodybuilders, their chests are all very raised. So their chests were raised like mountains. They were so powerfully built. And Parvatodbhata Bhujantaro api, even though they were so strongly built, so powerfully built, that their chests rivaled mountains, when they saw this soft, delicate-bodied Krishna entering, what happened? Kamsa Malla Nivahaha. Malla means wrestler. So Kamsa Malla Nivahaha, the entire group of wrestlers whom Kamsa had organized, when they saw Krishna entering like this, Savivyate, their hearts became filled with fear. How you see how contradictory this is? In fact, Bhagavatam says that Mallanam Tadityatha, when the wrestlers, Chanura, Mushtika, Tosala, and all this, there was a full group of them, not one or two. There was a full team he had organized, Kamsa had organized. When they saw Krishna, they felt like a thunderbolt had hit them. Tadityata. Oh my God, this is the person we have to fight with? They were all filled with fear. Although Komalangaha, they were Parvata Udbata Bhujantaraha. Their chests were raised like mountains. And here comes one small boy, and he's, so Komalanga he is. But seeing him, their hearts got struck with fear. So, you can see the reactions of different people when Krishna entered the arena. All of them saw Krishna differently according to the relationship they had with him. This is a very wonderful thing. Krishna is one person, only one person. But to each person he appeared differently. For the women, he is Manmata is the Cupid of Cupids. So attractive, the most attractive male. That is how the women saw him. Whereas for personalities like Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, he is our son. Small son he is. He cannot live with a Yashoda Mai is thinking, if I don't feed him milk, he'll become malnourished and he will die. That is Yashoda Mai is thinking. And Nanda Maharaj is thinking, I have to constantly protect him, otherwise some Asura will come and take him away. So Nanda Maharaj is thinking like that. The Gopas are all thinking, he is also one cowherd boy like us. He also every day comes takes the cows for grazing, and every day he brings them back. He milks the cows. So like us, he is also one cowherd like us. So everybody is looking at Krishna. Each person is seeing him differently. And the great rishis and sages, when they say Krishna, oh, he is the Paramatma, supreme personality of Godhead. And they offer their obeisances to him. So, what we have to understand is, if we have to really understand the position of Krishna, some qualification is needed. As it is mentioned in the Srimad-Bhagavatam in today's verse, Yatre me sadasadrupe pratishiddhe swasamvida. When we become self-realized and a person realizes, experiences that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself and the Lord. In other words, as long as one is in the bodily concept of life, one cannot understand Krishna. One cannot know Krishna. If one has to know Krishna's actual position, first we have to come out of the bodily concept of life. Personalities like Kamsa and Chanura, Mushtika, all these people, they were totally immersed in the bodily concept of life. Therefore, they could not recognize Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas all the rishis and sages, because they were self-realized, the moment they saw Krishna, they understood this is the Paramatma. Krishna Paramatma has come. So that is why Lord Brahma also makes a similar statement in the 10th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. After Brahma Vimohana Leela, after Brahma was bewildered by Krishna's display of mystic opulence, and then when he realized Krishna's position, he submitted many prayers to Krishna. So one of the things what he said was, Ittam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena. So he said, Ittam satam brahma sukhanubhutya. So the satam, the great learned jnanis, when they look at Krishna, they think he is the impersonal Brahman. Brahma sukhanubhutya. They think this is the impersonal Brahman has taken a form. Ittam satam brahma sukhanubhutya. And then dasyam gatanam paradaivatena. Those who are rendering devotional service to Krishna, when they see Krishna, oh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has come. And then martyanam naradarakena. Those who are maya ashritanam naradarakena. Those who have maya ashrita, those who have taken shelter of Mahamaya, those people when they say Krishna, naradarakena, they say he is another common man like us, maybe a little powerful, maybe a historical personality, but he is like you and me only. They compare themselves with Krishna. Or they say Krishna is all, imagination. There is nobody called Krishna, all stories. Some Vyasadeva wanted to present some nice principles, moral principles. For that he created the character of Krishna and made a nice story so that in an entertaining way he explains all the moral principles. So, Maya Shritanam, such people are those who have taken shelter of Mahamaya. And these people, when they say Krishna, they say Naradarakena. He is also a common man. Sardham vijahruhu krita punya punjaha. So, but then Sardham, taking him as a friend, vijahruhu, these sakas, these cowherd boys, vijahruhu, they are playing with him. They are taking him to be one of their friends. Sardham vijahruhu krita punya punjaha. God alone knows how much punya they must have accumulated to be able to play with Krishna like this as a friend. So that means those who are highly elevated devotees, they can look at Krishna as their own friend and they can play with him in the grooves of Vrindavan. The great impersonalists, they will be able to see Krishna as impersonal Brahman. And those who are devotees, who are engaged in Vaidhi Bhakti, they will see Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are Maya Shrita, those who are in the bodily concept of life, they will see Krishna as an ordinary person. So, we have to understand that as long as we are in the bodily concept of life, it is not possible to understand Krishna's position. And so, this bodily concept of life, there are some activities, when we engage in them, it reinforces our bodily concept of life, because of which we cannot comprehend the position of Krishna. So what are these activities which reinforce our bodily concept of life? They are broadly classified into 4 activities. What are those 4 activities? Intoxication, all kinds of intoxication, including alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, coffee, tea, all these intoxicants, partaking of intoxicants. Second is meat eating. Meat eating including eggs, fish, all kinds of non-vegetarian food stuff, even up to the point of onion and garlic. Intoxication, meat eating, illicit sex, having illicit relationships with women outside of marriage. And even within marriage, relationship between husband and wife should be only for begetting children. Any relationship between 2 people, even if it is in marriage, if it is for other than procreation, then it is classified as illicit sex. So all activities of illicit sex and all activities of gambling. So these 4 activities anybody engages in, it will reinforce this bodily concept of life. As long as people are engaged in these 4 activities, they cannot understand Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in other words, if we want to understand ourselves as well as Krishna, then we have to get out of the bodily concept of life. As it is mentioned here, Yatreme sadasad rupe pratishiddhe swasambhida tad brahma darshanam. So, until one comes to the point of coming out of the bodily concept of life, one cannot understand Krishna. And if we have to come out of the bodily concept of life, first step is to follow the principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. Unless we follow these 4 things, you cannot get out of the bodily concept of life. And if you don't get out of the bodily concept of life, you can neither understand yourself nor can you understand Krishna. And that is why Srila Prabhupada also made following these 4 principles mandatory for anyone if they are serious in spiritual life. You have to chant 16 malas and you have to follow these 4 regulative principles, without which there is no spiritual life at all. So this is completely in contradiction. The Shastras, like we are seeing, the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad-gita, everywhere, it is very clearly stated that unless one exercises self-restraint, unless one follows the four regulative principles, there is no question of spiritual life. We should not get misled by bogus so-called spiritualists who say yata mat tato pat. Whatever you want, you follow, no problem. You engage in intoxication, no problem. You engage in illicit sex, no problem. That's all your personal life. That has no connection with spiritual life. If somebody says like that, he is fooling you. Because the Shastras are not saying that. Shastras are saying the opposite. Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavatam, everywhere it is very clearly stated, unless one follows the four regulative principles of no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, what is the fourth one? No intoxication. Unless we follow these four things, there is no question of coming out of the bodily concept of life. And without coming out of the bodily concept of life, there is no question of spiritual life. And without spiritual life, there is no question of knowing oneself or knowing the true position of Krishna. So this is what we can understand from today's verse. I'll stop here. If anybody has any question or comment, we can discuss. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, there are 7 types of muktis, right?
4 types.
5
types.
Samipya, Sayujya.
Sayujya, if you include 5 types, yeah.
Okay. So the demons who were killed by Krishna,
yeah,
what will be their destination? They will get liberated, right? So what type of mukti they will attain?
So in the Shastras it is stated that Siddhalokastu Tamasaha Pare, the Brahman effulgence is referred to as Siddhaloka. Beyond Viraja river, the construct is, first there is the material universe, and the border of the material universe and the spiritual world is the Viraja river. So Viraja river is neutral place. There is no influence of the 3 modes of material nature. Beyond the Viraja river is Brahman effulgence. And you further penetrate into Brahman effulgence, there is Vaikuntha. And then further you go beyond Vaikuntha, there is Ayodhya. And beyond Ayodhya you come to Dwaraka. Beyond Dwaraka you come to Mathura. And finally you come to Goloka Vrindavan. This is the construct of the whole manifestation, the spiritual and material worlds. Now, so the Brahman effulgence is also known as Siddhaloka. It's not the Siddhaloka within this material universe. There is a planet within this material universe which is called Siddhaloka. But there is one more, that Siddhaloka is within this material world. It's under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. But the Brahman effulgence is also called a Siddhaloka. Siddhalokastu Tamasaha Pare. That Siddhaloka, that Brahman effulgence is beyond this material universe. So Siddhalokastu Tamasaha Pare Yatra Vasantihi, and where there are many people, there are many residents in that Siddhaloka, in that Brahman effulgence. Yatra Vasantihi Siddhaha, what is that? Can somebody pull out that verse? Yatra Vasantihi Siddhaha, I'm forgetting that verse. So, in effect what it says is, there, all these personalities are there who are absorbed in Brahman, meditation upon Brahman. And also, there are also Harina Hataha. So, there are people who are absorbed in Brahman meditation, who are situated within that Brahman effulgence. And also, there are people who are killed by Harina Hataha. So, by this what we can understand is that the people who are impersonalists, they get the liberation of merging, Sayujya Mukti, they merge into Brahman. And also, those asuras who are killed by Hari directly, by Vishnu or Krishna or Narayana, they also attain that same Sayujya Mukti. So, we can understand from this that those asuras who are killed by Krishna, they attain Sayujya Mukti in general. In some exceptional cases, like Putana, Krishna gave her the position of his mother, meaning she became a maid servant to Yashoda Mai. So that is not because Krishna killed Putana. That is because Sadvesha Diva Putana api Sakula Tvameva Deva Pita. Brahma explains this. He says, Putana, because when she came to feed Krishna, her breast milk filled with poison, she had dressed herself like one of the gopis. Because then only they will allow her to come and feed Krishna, no? Otherwise, some strangely dressed person, if she comes, Yasodama will not allow. So she had disguised herself like a gopi, Sadveshadiva. So like a gopi, she dressed herself and came. Just because she dressed herself like a gopi and came, Krishna thought she has come like a gopi to me, so make her the maid servant of Yasodamai. So that is a very, very special situation where Krishna gave this one, Putana, a position, liberation far beyond Sahyajya Bhakti. But normally, like personalities like Aghasura, Sisupala, they all attain Sahyajya Mukti. Is that okay? Anybody else? So we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.